Okay. Okay. All right. Shalom, shalom. Yahweh Shemiyah Shabakatham. All right. Shalom, shalom. Let's go ahead and start this. All right. So I'm going to do a quick lesson. The title of this lesson is Jonathan and David were not lovers. Stop the false doctrine. So this false doctrine is centered around 2 Samuel 1 and 26, right? Some people, for their own lustful desires, they try to use the scriptures to justify, man-on-man relations. And one of the scriptures they use to justify it is 2 Samuel 1 and 26. So we're going to examine it and see if it says, what they're saying, if it actually justifies that sin that they're trying to live in. This is 2 Samuel 1 and 26. It says, I am distressed for thee, my brother Jonathan. And very pleasant hast thou been unto me. Thy love to me was wonderful, passing the love of women. So with that little phrase right there, passing the love of women, they try to make that say, well, that must mean that Jonathan and David had some kind of romantic relationship going on, right? But we're gonna go ahead and debunk that with a few scriptures. So let's actually get historical context of why David even says this. So 1 Samuel 18:1. And it shall come to pass, when he had made an end of speaking unto Saul, that the soul of Jonathan was knit with the soul of David, and Jonathan loved him as his own soul. Now, we're going to get back to this knit part, knit with the soul. That's something important to understand. But notice how it says Jonathan loved him as his own soul, right? And Saul took him that day and would let him go no more home to his father's house. So we're going to go over to 1 Samuel chapter 20. Why did Jonathan not let David go? That's the first thing I want to show y'all. Right? 1 Samuel 20 and 32. It says, and Jonathan answered Saul his father and said unto him, where shall he be slain? Talking about David. What have he done? So, Jonathan is asking Saul, why are you trying to slay David? What did he do to you? What have he done wrong? Right? Verse 33. And Saul cast a javelin at him to smite him, whereby Jonathan knew that it was determined of his father to slay David. So after that moment, Jonathan, he already know that, hey, my father Saul, he wants David dead, right? So this is why Jonathan, he tried to protect David, to protect him from his father's wrath, right? To protect him from dying, right? For being killed by Saul. But what Jonathan is doing, he's actually keeping the commandments. Because what did it say in 1 Samuel 18? That he loved them like his own soul, right? So this Leviticus 19:18. It says, thou shalt not avenge nor bear any grudge against the children of thy people, but thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. And that's exactly what Jonathan did. Let's show it again, 1 Samuel 18. It says, and it came to pass when he had made an end of speaking unto Saul, that the soul of Jonathan was knit with the soul of David, and Jonathan loved him as his own soul. Right there. So that's point number one. Jonathan loved him as his own soul, and that he was trying to protect him from his father Saul. Right? Now let's get a classic. Let's go to Deuteronomy 28. Deuteronomy 28:54. Right? So we can show the hatred that Saul has for David. It says, so that the man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eye shall be evil towards his brother, and toward the wife of his bosom, and toward the remnant of his children which he shall lead. Right? So it says his eye shall be evil towards his brother, which we see, that Saul, his eye was evil towards David. right? Let's go back to 1 Samuel 18 and actually show that. I'm going to start at verse 6. It said, and it came to pass as they came, when David was returned from the slaughter of the Philistine, that the women came out of all the cities of Israel, singing and dancing to meet King Saul with tabrets, with joy, and with instruments of music. And when the women answered one another as they played, and said, Saul has slain his thousands, and David his 10,000s. Verse 8. And Saul was very wroth, and the saying displeased him, and he said, they have ascribed unto David 10,000s, and to me they have ascribed but thousands. And what can he have more but the kingdom? And Saul eyed David from that day in forward, right? So showing you, that curse being fulfilled in Deuteronomy 28:54, that your eye shall be evil towards your brother. It literally says, and Saul eyed David from that day forward. So that's the reason why. So he always wanted David dead. And that's the reason why Jonathan has to protect David from his father. Right? So let's go back up to verse 1 of 1 Samuel. Now we're going to touch on the knit part, because I said I was going to get back to this word knit. It said, and it came to pass when he had made an end of speaking unto Saul, that the soul of Jonathan was knit with the soul of David, and Jonathan loved him as his own soul, right? So what we're going to do, we're going to get the Hebrew, but before we get the Hebrew, let me show y'all this in Judges 20. Because remember, it said they was knit together, right? Judges 20:1. It says, then all the children of Israel went out, and the congregation was gathered together as one man, from Dan even to Beersheba, with the land of Gilead, unto the Lord in Mizpeh. All right, verse 11. So all the men of Israel were gathered against the city, knit together as one man. Right. Now we see in this context, it's not talking about anything romantic, right? But I want to show y'all some. 1 Samuel 18. We're going to get the Hebrew for the word knit. Let's go down to knit. Kasar. All right. So we finna look at this word knit, because this is another thing that they might pick at to say that, they had some kind of romantic same-sex thing going on, right? A same-sex relationship, right? So let's look at the definition. You can look at the biblical usage, but what we want is the straight definition, right? It says to tie, physically, gird, confine, compact, or mentally in love, right? So they can use that right there and say, see, they was in love because they was knit together. League, bind up, make a conspiracy, right? Join together, knit, stronger, work. So we see it's not just one word, all right? You can't just pick this word out of all the words and say it must mean that they was in love, right? But it's a specific word I do want to point out. Conspire. Now, I was doing a little study on this, and I believe that this is the word that would be most appropriate to the context of what was going on. Conspire, right? So let's go to 1 Samuel 22. 1 Samuel 22. Now, I'm going to show you why that knit together as one soul, them becoming one soul, is not talking about the same way a man and a woman become one soul. 1 Samuel 22:7. We're going to see what that knit talking about. It said, then Saul said unto his servants that stood about him, hear now, ye Benjamites, will the son of Jesse give every one of you fields and vineyards? Right? You're talking about David. Will David give you every one of you fields and vineyards, and make all of you captains of thousands and captains of hundreds? That all of you have conspired against me, right? And there is none that sheweth me that my son, Jonathan, hath made a league with the son of Jesse, David. And there is none of you that is sorry for me, or sheweth unto me that my son hath stirred up my servant against me, to lie in wait as at this day. Now, what do we read in that definition? Let's go back to it. For the word knit. Oh, look, right? Conspire. Join together. Right? So I believe these two words right here, conspire and join together, will be more appropriate to the context. Right? Because remember, it said that David and Jonathan, he made a covenant with David, right? To protect him. And whenever Saul, he found out about that, he said, you have conspired against me. So that will be most appropriate. Now, I'm going to get one more scripture to end it off. Let's go to 1 Kings. 1 Kings 15. The last point I want to make is this. If David and Jonathan sinned, when it says Jonathan loved David as his own soul, right? If that's talking about a same-sex relationship, then why isn't that sin mentioned right here? This is 1 Kings 15:5. Because David did that which was right in the eyes of the Lord and turned not aside from anything that he commanded him all the days of his life, save only in the matter of Uriah the Hittite, right? It didn't mention nothing about David doing anything else, right? It didn't mention that he did a sin of having relations with another man. So we can't use that, what is it, 2 Samuel? Yeah, we can't use 2 Samuel 1:26 to say that they love each other, as a man and a woman love each other. This is talking about a love that you have for your own brother. But this is showing you that Jonathan, he loved David because he wanted to protect him from his father. Jonathan, he put his life on the line for David. And one more thing to note. The scripture stated that Jonathan loved David, right? There ain't no scripture that says that David loved Jonathan that same way. So you can't even use the doctrine and say, hey, well, they loved each other, as a man and a woman love each other. It only explicitly states Jonathan having that love for David. But hey, with those precepts, y'all can pretty much get the point. There's no kind of sin going on between Jonathan and David. The love that Jonathan showed for David was a righteous love. It was a righteous brotherly love to protect him. All right. But with that, I'm going to say Shalom. Yahweh Bashem Yahshabrakatan.